Hey, what is up, webheads? Jesse James back here again, aka boltclan 3117, going to give you guys my Spider-Man Homecoming non-spoiler and spoiler review all in the same time. First, we're going to start off with non-spoilers, then we're going to go on to spoilers. So when my hand goes like this and I'm waving like choo, 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 then it's going to be spoilers. So I'll put a little, I'll put text on the bottom so you can know, just in case you didn't catch this early on. But anyways, before we actually get into my review, I want to give you guys a little bit of a story. It's going to be real quick about what happened to me yesterday. So yesterday, on a Wednesday, I had 2 passes to see an early screening to Spider-Man Homecoming. I was like, okay, hell yeah. I get to go see it a day early for free. That's what I'm talking about. No one's going to stop me. I'm walking in all cool with my girlfriend, and I'm walking in, all right? I'm confident, I'm cool, I'm collected. And I'm like, no one's going to stop me. Nothing. Not an earthquake, not a tsunami, not the vulture, not the 2 shockers. And so I get up there and I talk to the lovely lady at the front, and then she tells me, sorry, sir. Even though you're here an hour and a half early, we were at full capacity 45 minutes ago. There's nothing we can do for you. And then this other man comes up to me and he's like, sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And so I'm there with my girlfriend and things get crazy. My girlfriend tries to stop me, but it didn't end too well. Just go ahead and take a look yourself. It kind of went like this.
Is everything okay here, Paul?
Yeah. Everything okay here, Paul? Take him out of here.
Let's go, sir.
Take your hand off of me.
Now.
Okay.
Okay, so it didn't go like that, and I don't have a girlfriend. But what I can tell you is that Spider-Man Homecoming is fantastic. It's spectacular. It's amazing. It's any awesome word that you want to put in there to describe it. It's my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. Yes, even better than the original Spider-Man and better than the original Spider-Man 2. So, yeah, it's pretty damn good, if you ask me. I'd even say it's one of my top 5 MCU films thus far of the 14, 15 we've gotten thus far. It'll join, this is no particular order, but it joins the ranks of the first Avengers, Civil War, The Winter Soldier, and Doctor Strange. So Spider-Man Homecoming is definitely in the top 5 for me. I love this movie. I love everything about it. Really, I have very, very small complaints about this film. Just, first I want to say that for those of you who are worried about this being, oh, the trailers are showing way too much Iron Man. It's going to be Iron Man 4. It's not going to be Spider-Man. No. Take it easy. It's Spider-Man's movie. Iron Man is in this movie for maybe 3 scenes, I think. That's it. He's in there, 1 scene in the very beginning. Then he's 1 scene in the middle when Peter gets in trouble. And then he's there for the 3rd scene at the end when something happens. But you'll see when you watch the movie itself. But he's not in the film that long. He's really not. Another thing I want to say is that this is the best Peter Parker / Spider-Man that we've gotten so far. He's better than Andrew Garfield. He's better than Tobey Maguire. And yes, we all love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I do too. Very near and dear to my heart. But Tom Holland's Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, the best, no doubt. Another thing I want to say is that a lot of people were worried about the casting of Flash Thompson. And I know he's a lot more smaller, he's not this big built bully, but it's okay. Your fears are actually warranted. I'm sorry to say that, but this Flash Thompson is the worst iteration of the 3 that we've gotten thus far. I wasn't one who was picky about who was going to be playing Flash Thompson, and I really trusted Marvel and Sony, even Sony, just to give him a chance and say, okay, look, I'm going to wait and judge him based on his acting and based on his character in the film before I complain about this Flash Thompson. This Flash Thompson is terrible. just completely the worst. He's really a little bit of a punk. I mean, he's not intimidating at all. But I can't really say more about his character until I get to the spoiler section of this review, so I'll tell you more about that later. Another thing I do want to bring up is that the Vulture is without a doubt the most intimidating, the most scariest, just downright terrifying villain that we've gotten in the MCU thus far. And a lot of that is to do with Michael Keaton and his delivery. I gotta say, I think he might be my new favorite villain in the MCU in its entirety. I'm even putting him right up there with Loki. I'm not sure if I want to put him past Loki yet, but they're neck and neck, man. And I can't say anything more about his character yet without getting too spoilery, so I'll bring that up later on in the video as well. I want to say that the character of Ned Leeds, who's Spider-Man's best friend, he's a great character. He's a great friend to Peter Parker, and I appreciate what they did with his character. He's just really down to earth. He's a really funny character, and a lot of stuff with him and a lot of things that he does throughout the film it's awesome. It's really great. I enjoy his character, so I'm looking forward to seeing him more in future films. Another thing I want to bring out is that the comedy in Spider-Man Homecoming works to a T. I mean, it's not shoehorned in the movie. It's not, shoved down our throats like a lot of Age of Ultron's comedy was. No, instead, this Spider-Man Homecoming, the comedy that they use and the bits that they use to get a laugh out of us as an audience actually really works in this movie. So I appreciate that comedy as well as with the drama and suspense that we get and the action that we get in Spider-Man Homecoming. So that concludes the spoiler-free part of my review. Not that I have to tell you this, but you need to go out and go see Spider-Man Homecoming. But anyways, this is it for the spoiler-free review. Okay, so this means spoilers. Crazy spoilers. Spoiler alert. Okay, anyways. Now I want to say a couple of things. First off, I want to talk about how I love the time that we spent with Peter Parker as a person in this film, because it allows us to care about the character even more. It allows us to invest in him. And I really appreciate what they did with this character. I mean, we get to spend so much time with him outside of the suit, and even when he's in the suit, sometimes he's not always fighting people and doing all this crazy action bits. No. We really get to learn about who Peter Parker really is on the inside. I especially love his scenes with Karen, who's the AI inside of the Spider-Man suit that Tony built in for him, and just the interaction that they have with each other. I can't wait to see Karen again. I just think that, I like their little bit of back and forth. Just, the fact that Spider-Man, he's taken off the training wheels protocol from Tony Stark, and he has no clue how to use all these different configurations that Tony's put into the suit for him. They're like on an advanced level, and Spider-Man doesn't know how to control it, so he's relying on Karen to make decisions for him. That kind of shows a little bit of the naivety and irresponsibility, if you want to say, of Peter in the beginning and sometimes throughout this film. Of course, we know he grows as a character towards the end, but I like that they get to show us that progression of his character, where at first, he wants to do whatever he can to impress Mr. Stark, even if that means not listening to him, and even if it means, doing things that he shouldn't. But ultimately, he learns in the end, what it takes to be a responsible person and to be a person of, a grand magnitude, being a superhero. So I appreciate the time we get to spend with just Peter Parker. Another thing I want to say is, I was talking to you guys about Flash Thompson. Flash Thompson is just a little weasel. He's a punk. I guess they want to make him some type of equal to Peter Parker in terms of them both being really smart. But Flash Thompson, throughout the whole movie, I'm thinking, why is Peter afraid of him? Why? I'm not. And I don't think anyone who watches this film, anyone, no one's afraid of this Flash Thompson. Granted, maybe we're not supposed to be, but I just don't like the direction they're taking that character. I mean, he's a punk. I could kick his ass, and I can't do that to many people. But this Flash Thompson's not very intimidating, so I don't like the character. I don't want him to become Agent Venom, like he's saying in certain interviews. And no disrespect to the actor. I mean, no disrespect to him at all. I just don't think he was perfect for this Flash Thompson. Of course, maybe that's not all his fault, because this is the character that they decided to run with, rather than the Flash Thompson we've seen in the original trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy. Maybe not a trilogy, but 2 movies. You get my point. I want to say that Aunt May, the way this movie ends with Aunt May finding out that Peter has been Spider-Man this whole time, perfect. And now, another important thing about this film and about the MCU in general is that, okay, look, I love them to death, but let's admit it, they have a bit of a villain problem. I mean, aside from Loki and maybe Ego the Living Planet from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, their villains are pretty much forgettable. I mean, Malekith from Thor 2, Ronan from Guardians, Ultron. A lot of these villains, Obadiah Stane, they don't have backstories to them. We really don't get a chance to care for them. We don't care about their motives. We don't care about their backstory. Some of them don't even have backstories. But no need to fear with the Vulture. Adrian Toomes is an awesome villain. And from the get-go, this film opens up with him, and we get to see him for like maybe 5 minutes, just focusing on his character 8 years, I think, 7, 8 years before Spider-Man Homecoming. It takes place right after the first Avengers battle in New York. And we see him and his crew are cleaning up. They're cleaning up after the battle. And that's how he makes his money. That's how he makes his living for his family. But then these people come in and they shut him down. They shut his crew down and say, well, Tony Stark and the higher-ups of the world, they're the ones who are going to pay. They're the ones who are going to get paid to clean up all this mess. So not only in his mind, Adrian's mind, not only does Tony Stark create this mess, but he's being paid to clean it up. So really, I mean, in him, if you think of it through his eyes, he's just at the bottom. He's the bottom of the low. I mean, he's an everyday working man. This is how he makes his living. Tony Stark takes it away from him. He takes away his living. And so he turns to a life of crime. I mean, he's forced to do that to make a living. I mean, a decent living for his family. So I understand where the Vulture character is coming from. I understand his motives. I know why he's doing what he's doing. So when Peter Parker realizes that he's selling weapons to criminals, Peter Parker's obviously going to stop him. So, Peter's in the right. But in Vulture's eyes, this kid comes along. He's managed to stay hidden from the Avengers and other superheroes. But Spider-Man comes along, and he's going to ruin everything he's created. He's going to ruin he's going to prevent him from putting food on his family's table. So I understand why the Vulture wants to stop Spider-Man as well. And it's really good motives for both characters. And let me say, like I was saying with Michael Keaton, there's a scene in the car when he's talking to Peter and saying, "I know you know who I am." The entire ride with him getting to the homecoming dance, there's so much suspense that's being built up between these two characters, and you're like, oh shit, he knows you're Spider-Man. And Spider-Man, obviously, Peter knows that he knows that he's the Vulture, but he didn't know up until a couple minutes earlier that he was Liz Allen's dad. And Peter obviously has a major crush on Liz Allen, so this is like really awkward for him, and it's kind of sad really. It makes this hero villain rivalry between them, makes it so much more personal. There's so much more stakes, and I love it. It's more meaningful for all the characters involved. Liz Allen, Peter. I mean, obviously Peter, as much as he wants to, he can't tell Liz why he keeps disappointing her as Peter, because Spider-Man has a moral obligation to stop crime, to stop the bad guys. So it's just brilliant. It's beautiful. I love every minute of the Vulture character. And with the Vulture character, we get to the final two cutscenes of the film. First, we have a mid-credit scene, and then we have a post-credit scene. The mid-credit scene, I enjoyed the hell out of, because Vulture's locked up. Thank goodness he did not die like every other MCU villain, pretty much. So he's locked up, and when he's in jail or prison, he runs into Mac Gargan, who is AKA the Scorpion. And so they're talking about, hey, I know you didn't. He's telling Vulture, hey, I know you didn't do this to me. I know with back at the on the ferry. He knows that was Spider-Man's fault. So he's like, I know a couple guys on the outside who would love to kill the Spider-Man, and I know you know who he is. And Vulture then replies to him. He retorts that if I knew who he was, he'd be dead. So I love that line. I love that line from Vulture because it tells us one of two things. It's kind of ambiguous. It's very it doesn't really tell us exactly what he's thinking, but I think it's one of two things. Either he wants to kill the Spider himself, or, this is the one I prefer, is that he realizes that in the fight with Peter, which was an awesome fight, by the way, I think he realizes that Spider-Man saved his life. If it wasn't for Peter, the Vulture would have died on that beach. He just would have. And so I think that hopefully this is the Vulture realizing that Peter's a good kid. And so he doesn't want to rat out Peter. And maybe I think that create for an interesting dynamic because he knows, okay, he even tells Peter, now he understands why his daughter is into him. And so I think that creates such an interesting dynamic between the Vulture and Peter, and that the Vulture, I think he can understand that Peter's a good kid, but at the same time he's too far deep now. He's too far gone into this crime world that he can't give it up. I mean, now that Spider-Man shut him down, he can't make a living the way he used to for 8 years now. So he's going to have to obviously come to something else. He's probably going to think, well, I've got nothing else left. And maybe this is setting up for the Scorpion to become the main villain of Spider-Man Homecoming 2. And maybe they bust out together. Maybe this is the Sinister Six that we're talking about here. If that's so, if that's the case, I'm all for it, and I couldn't be happier. Now, on to the post-credit scene. A lot of people are saying that it's the best post-credit scene of all time, and I've seen a couple of people actually say that. But I gotta say, I didn't like it. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's really just a troll to the fans. It's really a troll to the people who stay behind and sit through the credits and watch everybody who worked on the movie. A lot of people don't do that, but MCU fans do that. We sit through that and we wait for that to get a post-credit scene that sets up the next movie, or it's just a nice little treat for the fans. And I understand Marvel doesn't owe us anything like that, but at the same time, people spend their time, after the movie ends, they wait all this time to see a post-credit scene for characters that they love, things that they enjoy, or to see what's up next, what's going to happen next. But they kind of just trolled us. They kind of just trolled us, and yeah, maybe this is me just being a letdown fan, but hey, that's just me. Maybe you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you thought it was funny. It didn't matter to you guys, and that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But just me personally, I think it was a troll, which was Captain America telling us, don't you just hate it when, you have this much patience and you feel like, oh, you're wasting all this time for nothing? And that's ultimately what we did, and they trolled us. But hey, that's okay. It's neither here nor there. It's done with. I don't have to think about it anymore. I still love this movie. I think it's one of my favorites of all time, like I said. So, yeah, this has been my review for Spider-Man Homecoming, and I'll catch you guys in my next review. This is boltclan 3117, signing off.